Hello there, welcome back to my channel, Just Joss, where I bring you just truth, not my truth or your truth, but the truth that is true always, God's truth. So the reading for today comes from Matthew 7 verse 6. It reads, "Do not give what is holy to the dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and tear you in pieces." So today I want to consider this in terms of never complain and never explain. I don't know if you ever heard that phrase, but that's what I'm going to talk about today. So basically, no one likes to complain anyway, but we tend to complain to people, and 80% of the people that we tend to complain to can't help us solve our problems. So really it's just us blowing hot air and complaining, and it doesn't really achieve anything. And the same with explaining. Now sometimes we feel that we must explain and over explain ourselves to people when really that's not actually called for. So this is two ways that I feel that as Christians we cast our pearls before swine. So going back to complaining, I just want you to consider how it's actually a fruitless exercise. Now God doesn't like us to be grumbling and moaning anyway, and it doesn't achieve anything. It just really throws negativity out there, and out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. And we want to actually as Christians be having a beautiful mind. Now we achieve that by keeping our mind on things above, not on things below, and also keeping our faith high, having the joy of the Lord, which doesn't come from our circumstances, and on meditating on things that are true, honourable, lovely, and worthy of praise. So, you know, a beautiful mind like that doesn't look to complain. Now, that's not to say that we're not going to have things to complain about. Of course we are, because we're subject to the things on earth just like anybody else, and there are many frustrations and things that come at us, and you know, probably as Christians as well, you know, the whole element of spiritual warfare, that's probably going to be greater for Christians anyway. So of course there are going to be things that we could complain about, but we don't want to be complainers. And as I said, you know, the 80% of people that we complain to can't help us with it, so it's just us blowing hot air and wasting time, and probably giving someone else an ear bashing and making them feel bad as well. And while you're complaining, you're not really going to feel good about complaining. Now, psychology would argue differently and say that it's good to vent and good to get things off your chest. Now, I'm not saying it's not good to let it out, but again, let's consider the 20% of people that we would be better off venting to, who can actually help us solve a problem. You know, at the end of the day, if you're complaining about something that is subject to change, then if it's subject to change, then there's no point complaining about it, no point focusing on it, because it's going to change, it's going to go away. And if there's something that's really, you know, a big roadblock and it's standing in your way, then do talk about it. You know, it is worth discussing with whether it's your mentors or spiritual, you know, father, or you know, your spiritual team, basically, who can actually help you to resolve that, you know. And also, first and foremost, take it in prayer to God, you know. But that would be the best place to lodge your complaints without actually just ruminating and going over it and just blowing hot air for the sake of being negative and putting it out there. So that's one way that we cast our pearls before swine, and I'm just suggesting that a better way is to think about not complaining and thinking about bringing your concerns before the right people, but first and foremost to God. Now, as I said, the other way is explaining. Now, sometimes we feel that we must explain things to people. I'm not saying that there's never a time that we need to explain, but often people over explain. And even with explaining, actually, you know, sometimes people can demand an explanation from you, but it's not something that they have a right to demand. Now, in terms of what you're doing with your life, and obviously the Christian life, the Christian who's living in radical obedience, they can look like a crazy person. So people may question what they're doing with their lives, and it doesn't even have to be somebody who's doing crazy things, but it can just be, you know, as a grown person, as an adult, you know, you make your own decisions. So people may look at you and think, you know, if you left a certain job, that why are you doing that, what are you doing? Or if you choose, you know, not to go to university but you decide to go to work instead, you know, people may think, why are you doing that? And you know, if you decide to invest your money over here, people may say, why are you doing that? If you decide not to have kids or to have 10 kids, people may say, why are you doing those things? And I just want you to think about how it's not really any of their business. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. You don't need to explain your life choices or your life decisions. You don't need to consult people before you make such decisions, and you don't need to explain them afterwards. Now, obviously, there are certain people, obviously, if you wanted to have 10 kids as a woman, then you need to obviously consult your husband. But I'm just saying, in general terms, if you want to make certain decisions about your life and your lifestyle and your faith walk, and whether you're going to go abroad and be a missionary or whatever, those types of things, those decisions that you might make that may look radical to other people, you don't owe people explanations. At the end of the day, unless they're paying your bills, then you don't owe them any explanations, and don't let them put it upon you to explain yourself, and you don't need to over explain if you're confident in your decision. And you should be confident in your decisions. If you're walking with Christ and you're hearing from God, you know, you have that Holy Spirit discernment, you're checking in with God about what you should be doing, you're seeking God's will for your life, then that's the person, the only being that you need to consult. And God knows your heart anyway. God knows what's in your mind, and that's the person that you need to discuss things with, and that's it. You know, you don't need to explain yourself to other people. So as I said, don't cast your pearls before swine. Never complain, never explain. Follow God's will, and that's all you need to do. Okay, that's the love bite for today. You have been bitten, and until next time, signing off, Just Joss.